Hello everyone, welcome back to the Benchwarmers Podcast. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host Josh Sykes.
Thanks for having me, Gab, on what is another brilliant interview we've got lined up.
Yes, this week we are delighted to welcome, is it MATHER, or we probably should have discussed this before, is it MATHER?
It's MATHER, yeah, it's the hard A. It's the Lancastrian version, because that's where I come from.
We're delighted to welcome Ian MATHER then to the podcast. Ian, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, good. I think we should straight away open up with the question which me and Josh are both wondering. What does the chief executive role at Cambridge United actually entail? So what do you have to do on a day-to-day basis?
When I took the job, which is now well over a year ago, I got everyone together in the club to explain what a chief exec does, because I'm not sure that everyone realised.
No.
And I made the point that my first job is to make sure everyone gets paid on time. It's to be running the club. It's not to pick the players, that's Mark Bonner's job. Yeah. It's not to cut the grass, that's Ian Darler's job, and to do so much more about the stadium. It's not for me to tell people how to do their jobs. It's just for me to create the atmosphere, the means by which everyone can do their job to the best.
Yeah. So is it, obviously you're in charge of the club, so obviously I'm guessing it's the chairman, then yourself.
Yeah, in terms of a structure, we've got a majority owner, Paul Barry, based in Seattle, but he comes from Cambridge United through and through, season ticket holder. His mum and his brother still come to the games. So he owns a majority stake. And then we've got a board of directors. I was on the board, came off the board just over a year ago to take on the chief exec role. And the board, we have a chairman of the board, and we also have a number of other directors who each take a particular responsibility within the club.
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh. We're going to do this a lot there. Yeah.
Gab, go ahead.
Obviously, like you said before, you don't pick the team sheet. That is mainly Mark Bonner. What is your relationship currently like with Mark Bonner? Because I believe when you joined, there was Colin Calderwood at the helm. Am I right?
There was, yeah, and I was actually chaired the recruitment panel for Colin Calderwood, and he did a great job for us in that season. In that we were free fall was possibly one way of putting it. We were not doing well, and we recruited Colin. He did a great job for us. Then last season it wasn't quite working out, and we changed, and Mark Bonner came in. And I've got a good relationship with Mark. We speak most days, and we think alike really. And he does his job, and my job's to try and help him in any way I can.
Yeah. So what do your conversations, you say you talk to him most days, what do those conversations actually entail then?
Well, you won't be surprised to, but you will be. Usual banter. You know, I ask him about Morecambe and how good does it feel to win 5-0. but then, you know, we're having a conversation this afternoon about facilities for the training ground, given that we've had Boris's announcement this afternoon, and we're probably going to have restrictions until March. So what further changes do we need to make to our training ground to make this players as safe as they can be? So there's a real, practical issue to deal with. We talk about he talks to me about the players he'd be interested in and the ones they plan to sign. But be clear, that's really his decision along with Ben Strang. I just keep an eye on the total money point of it and things like salary cap. So, we work together on those things.
Yeah, so obviously when the League Two salary cap came in, did it make your job a lot harder to sort of make sure the club don't overspend and have to face, is it fines they'd have to face, I think it is?
Ultimately, it's worse than fines, it's points deductions.
Oh, God.
I was on the vote to introduce the salary cap, so I cast the vote on behalf of Cambridge United in the League Two meeting that was for that. And we supported the salary cap, still do. It is a good idea. It will limit what clubs can spend, and some clubs have got themselves into real difficulty chasing the dream. And there's always a temptation in football to chase the dream, spend that bit more money, get that extra player in, and we'll get success, and we'll get into League One, and then we'll get into the Championship, and then we'll get into the Premiership, and all will be fantastic. And in the meantime, the club goes bust. So you've got to there've got to be some rules about it, and I think the salary cap at 1.5 million in League Two is the right number, and we'll comply with that.
Yeah. So you were saying earlier about your talks with Marty. It's about kind of like you get your banter, and then obviously today you're talking about the things that Boris has introduced and how the restrictions could be until March. Is it your job then to kind of communicate with people like Public Health England to ensure that the way the club is being run in terms of the training ground and on match days and things, is that your job to make sure that all the COVID guidelines are being abided to?
Yeah, exactly. It is. We have a COVID-19 officer who's our club secretary. And for example, the game we did against Fulham, which was the first game that fans were allowed back into the stadium, Andy, the COVID-19 officer, wrote the plan, but I had to sign it off. So my name was on it to go to EFL to say, yeah, we are compliant. We then have to work with Sports Ground Safety Authority and the Safety Advisory Group, the local authority licensing body. So, yeah, I get involved in that. And I was involved in the discussions with EFL to get us to the point where we did have fans and ran that trial.
So, in terms of like actually communicating with the EFL, then, do you mainly have to deal with? Is it David Baldwin, who is it like from one chief executive to another in regards to what's going to happen with the COVID-19?
No, there are regular meetings held on Zoom. Well, actually, Microsoft Teams, but same thing. With League Two, and also League One and the Championship have their meetings. Sometimes they're all together, and our main contact is one of the directors from Carlisle, who chairs the League Two group.
Okay.
But there's also Dave Baldwin's always on the call and is there to answer questions and usually gives a brief report. So there's pretty good communication across the clubs, and we do speak to each other quite a bit. I think it's probably something that's come out of COVID is that the clubs are speaking to each other more than they used to.
Yeah. So you're talking about how Fulham, how Carlisle against Fulham 21s was the first pilot trial of the COVID safe fans into the stadium. You said in an interview that 1,000 people was fine for the first one, but after that you needed, was it 2,500 fans to be able to be financially stable? Obviously running. So what was it like for a fan coming into the stadium against the Fulham game?
I think they thought it was safe, which was important for them to feel safe.
Yeah,
I think they enjoyed it. I mean, we did play well, which always helps. But I think it was an enjoyable experience. It was different. They were wearing masks. They were socially distanced. They were directed as to where they could go, when they could go. At the end of the game, they couldn't just all get up and go. They had to be let go in an orderly way. So it was different, but I think they really enjoyed it.
Obviously, with the fans coming back in, then with the new COVID guidelines, it looks very unlikely that it could be happening for a while, or at least until things get a bit better. Do you feel as if, however, the 1,000 fans which were allowed into the game, it's making steps towards the right sort of circumstances for it to come?
Yeah, we've got to build confidence that people can feel safe coming to football matches. And I do think it is safe. I think the systems that we have in place, mean that people can come in, they're outside, they're distanced, it's organised. It's a lot more organised than, for example, I heard of a comparison between Blackpool Football Club last Saturday, which was all social distance. It's one of the trial games, done really, really well, and Blackpool Beach, which was just crammed and a mess. Which poses the greater COVID risk? Well, I'm pretty clear it's Blackpool Beach. But we've got to get over to people and government that it is safe to come to football grounds in a socially distanced way. And it's important to get over the 1,000. The point on the sort of the economic point. At 1,000 fans, we lose money because we've already sold those 1,000 tickets. We've got 1,500 season tickets holders. So they're the ones who take the first seats. Absolutely, they should.
Yeah.
But we've already had the money for that. So all we have when we host a game with 1,000 fans is the expense of opening the stadium, all the stewarding cost, all the portaloos we have to get in so that we can maintain social distancing when people go to the loo. All of that cost comes in, but no extra revenue. We've got to get over the level of our season ticket holders, 1,500, before we get any extra revenue.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd like to rewind a little bit and go back to March when we got put into lockdown. The season was cancelled. What was it like for you being a CEO of Cambridge at that time? It just been announced that lockdown was happening, the football season was being cancelled. What was going through your mind at that point?
It was, let's work out how we're going to manage this. Let's do it on a number of fronts. And we are, it sounds like we're blowing our own trumpet here, but we're well organised at Cambridge. And got a good finance function. Number one, what does this mean financially? How is this going to impact? Let's work on various scenarios and put a number on them so that we know how much this is going to cost, because it is going to cost, because we've just lost our revenue for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
The next was what help is available to us to make the situation better. Furlough was really helpful, but then go hard and go quick on furlough. Who needs to remain working? There were 8 people. All the others go on furlough straight away. No time for long debate on this. So we effectively put the club into hibernation at a fairly rapid pace. We worked out what the financial consequences were and then how to manage that going forward. And you may have seen that we introduced a couple of investors into the club during this process, because our owner, Paul Barry, makes his money from the US travel business. Now, you can imagine, you just know, can't you? You don't need to be an expert in economics to work out his business is not firing on all cylinders at the moment.
No.
Particularly when the travel is mostly to Europe.
Yeah.
But working with Paul, we've got these 2 new investors in who are really great guys, really interested in the club, exactly share our values. And so that has helped us plan as we go through this season. And then coming through to the point of when we're starting to play again, we pulled all the players back off furlough on the 1st of August because we were going to start playing beginning of September. So we had a short time to get them fit again. Yeah. Actually, they'd been sent home with training regimes, and actually they'd done a really good job at looking after themselves. So they came back in pretty good shape. And then we worked hard, or Mark Bonner worked hard with them to get them ready to go for our first games of the season.
Yeah, so obviously with the coronavirus and how it affected the financial side of things, do you have like a team of people behind you? Because if you're ahead of like helping out with the finances, was there a team of people behind you who maybe give you guidance and advice on how to deal with the coronavirus ramifications?
One of the helpful things in my background is before I was chief executive of a football club, I was a solicitor in private practice for over 30 years, specialising in employment law, which when COVID hits, a lot of the issues are around employees. So I sort of felt it was in my comfort zone, if you like, to deal with those issues. And on the finance side, we've got a finance director, we've got 2 people in our accounts function who are highly competent. So again, that was covered. We've got a board of directors which is highly skilled in all sorts of areas. So that's the group of people I can talk things over with. We were holding board meetings weekly at the peak, so that we were keeping on top of it, looking forward, challenging each other. So it wasn't me just sitting at my desk in my home. self-isolating and working on my laptop. There were a lot of people around, but that's the advantage of having a really good team.
Yeah. So you were appointed interim CEO of Cambridge on, was it the 31st of July 2019?
Yeah.
Obviously, that was after you joined the board in 2018, I believe, which was the same year you retired from Mills and Reeve.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
What did you? Thank you. What did you like? Who came to the decision that you were going to be interim CEO? Was it you put your name forward? Was it a board decision, like a majority vote?
Yeah, so we'll go back to 2018. I'd retired from Mills and Reeve reasonably young, wanting to do something else and didn't know what it was exactly. I've got a long history with the club as an advisor, on and off, going back to the late 80s. So I know the club very well. Sean Grady, who chairs the board, asked me, I think the following day after I'd retired, did I want to come on the board? And I know a number of the board directors, and I said, yeah, I've now got the time to do that. I was on the board for a year, and we looked as a board internally and thought we really need a chief executive. And we scoped out the sort of skills we wanted from a chief exec, and then I was asked to do it. I didn't ask to do the job. But I was asked by the chairman, but that was alongside Paul Barry, the owner. And I said, initially I was going to do it for a shorter period, but then I realised, no, to do this properly, you've got to commit to a whole season. So I'll commit to a season.
Yeah.
And I did that. Actually quite enjoyed it. I think it has been going quite well. Before COVID hit, I'd agreed to do next season as well. Then COVID hit, and I just got busier.
As Joshua mentioned this quite a lot, how maths is definitely not my strong point. As a solicitor said, obviously, I'm guessing you've got to be very good at maths. What did you actually do at university to get into that position to lead up to your job at Cambridge United?
At university, I read economics at York.
Okay.
And then I decided that I actually wanted to be a lawyer, and did a conversion course in Newcastle, and then another postgrad year doing legal practice course. So qualified as a solicitor in 1984, came to Cambridge in 84, trained with a sort of niche commercial practice, and the rest is history. I merged that. I became managing partner of that at quite a young age, at 34. Merged it with a multinational law firm called Eversheds in 1998.
Yeah.
And so it went on. But having done that for quite a long time, I wanted to do something different.
Yeah. So, Gab, if you'd have waited a bit, I've got all that written down, so I'm going to talk about that. So what skills do you believe then were transferable from obviously being a solicitor for 30 odd years to then being the Chief Executive Officer of Cambridge United?
One of the first things is people management, and a number of management roles as a lawyer, and getting the best out of people, getting them to work together is really important. The firm that I ended my career with, Mills and Reeve, they are known nationally as a brilliant employer. They've been in the Sunday Times Best Employers list for, I think it's about 16 years in a row. The only business of its size that's done that consistently. And I took some of that thinking with me into Cambridge United to get people working together. One of the other skills as a solicitor that helped is crisis management. I've spent my years in law dealing with other people's crises, stuff that is really quite challenging for them. And then they look to the solicitor in that role to be the calm, forward-thinking, planning head when it's all looking a bit gloomy for them.
Yeah.
And I think particularly in the year we've just had, I think that was actually quite helpful.
Definitely sounds it.
Yeah.
So obviously you were saying that you kind of look over, I wouldn't say look over the budget, but you're kind of in charge of obviously what the club is spending and things. So what is your role in terms of kind of negotiating for transfers? So I'm guessing, would the manager come to you and say, I want to buy this player, I want to loan in this player, and then you go away, look at the budget, and would you then delegate to someone else, or would you kind of contact the club you're trying to buy from yourself, or just someone else to do that?
No, the buying of players is the responsibility of our head of football, Ben Strang. And it's a good example of playing people to the strengths. To be honest, I'd be probably quite poor at doing that job because I've got no experience of doing it. Ben has got a lot of experience of buying players. He knows, his knowledge of the players in and around our division is phenomenal. He knows all of the agents. He knows what is the going rate on a weekly rate for players. I don't have any of that knowledge. My role is to set the broad parameters that we've got to stay within the salary cap. We've got a budget, which we've got to stick to. And within that, it's up to Ben Strang and Mark Bonner to spend the money wisely and produce a squad that's going to do really well. And so far, they're 2 games in, they're doing very well.
Yeah.
Very happy to be fair. Of course, with the season, it's a shame that fans aren't exactly allowed back in full yet. How's it been having to deal with IFollow and obviously meet the needs of the fans because I know a few people who have had a few problems with them. So how is it actually having to, I don't know how to word this, how to get the fans to watch the games without them being there?
IFollow is really important to us in terms of income, but it's also important for fans to see the games. And we've now got the arrangement we have is that any fan can watch any game on IFollow, and that's a massive step forward from last season.
Yeah, definitely.
The season ticket holders get a free pass for the home games as compensation, really, for the fact that they can't be at the game. And we just hope that any other fan will buy a IFollow pass, because we get, inclusive of VAT, £8 per match pass sold. So it's £6.66. It comes to us for each £10 match pass, and that makes a real difference. We split it. If we're the away team, we've sold a number of passes. The first 500 that we sell goes to the home team to try and replicate what they would have had from our travelling fans in terms of ticket sales, but we keep everything above that. So it helps us for every game to maximise the number of IFollow passes that we sell. And we're doing quite a lot to promote them. So we've got a pre-match experience. We've got interviews, some competitions, just to try and make it as interesting as we can be. And then we do post-match interviews as well, player of the match and Mark Bonner. And certainly so far this season, we're seeing our numbers rise as fans are getting hold of how to do it. To pick on your point, Josh, about there have been some problems, I think that's not something that Cambridge United or any club can manage. That is EFL, they're managing the IFollow function. I think possibly the first couple of games, there's been a problem with people just piling in at 10 minutes to 3. I think it would help if they'd logged on half an hour before. I've seen a number of tweets, it's 3 minutes to 3 and I can't log on. Which buttons do I press? But people are getting more used to it, and I think hopefully we'll log on sooner. And I think it's a new system, isn't it? And people take time to get used to systems. And I think that's probably more of the problem than the platform not being robust enough.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of work going on to try and make it work smoothly.
Yeah. So are you seeing the numbers of fans buying IFollow passes increasing game by game then?
Yeah, we are. I think for Morecambe we sold 640, and I think for Birmingham in the Carabao Cup we sold 427. So Birmingham Championship side, it was Carabao Cup rather than League, but it's a big increase up to Morecambe.
Yeah.
And if we keep on scoring the way we are, I'm hopeful that we're going to get those numbers going up.
They'll definitely so if you keep going the way you are.
Also, guessing those numbers you've given, then they're on top of the season card holders that get access for free.
They are, but the Morecambe game, nobody got a free pass because it was an away game. Both of those, no free passes. Whereas Carlisle, there were free passes, but I forget the number we sold, but it was over 400.
Yeah, so say you were meant to have, was it 2,500 fans at the Carlisle game, but that ended up getting, the fans being there ended up getting cancelled. Was it like a couple of days beforehand?
Yeah. Structured this return to fans. There's what they call trial games and pilot games. A trial game is 1,000 fans, and a pilot is your COVID capacity. So however you work out social distancing within your own stadium, that's the maximum you can get. The maximum for us, the outside edge, was 2,500. I think it'd have been close to 2,200. That week we did the Fulham game on the Tuesday. We then allocated 1,500 season tickets on the Wednesday. Wednesday evening, Boris Johnson announced that any football or sports ground attendance was going to be capped at 1,000. We then had 1,500 live tickets out there for the game on Saturday, and we had to work out what to do. And the conclusion we came to was the safe course of action was to go behind closed doors, because we could have cancelled the 1,500, reissued another 1,000 doing a random ballot. But you can imagine we've then got 2,500 tickets out there. Some people who've got a cancelled ticket might turn up and say, I want to come in. We get all that conversation going on, which we want to avoid. So we just went for the safe option.
So is it more of a case of it was either have, again, I don't know how to word this. So those 1,500 tickets already bought and were planning on going in before obviously the new guidelines, and then rather than just having the 1,000, you thought it'd just be more fair to have nobody in. Is that right?
Yeah, because we couldn't risk mismanaging, having fans cancelling tickets would have been the Thursday before the Saturday, cancelling 1,500, reallocating another 1,000. We just saw the potential for real problem on the Saturday with confusion of who could come in and who couldn't. So we went for the safe option. We did all of this while I was on holiday. I'd had a 1 week away since I took the job. That's true. I had another way in March, but I spent a lot of that time on Zoom and doing media interviews because sort of have to, really.
Did you go on holiday anywhere else?
Nice. We were due to go to France, but we didn't go there. We went to North Wales instead. It was quite nice. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. So what is your vision for... So I'll start off by asking a different question first. Will you be CEO next season?
That's a really good question. Very sharp and perceptive. I don't know yet. I've agreed to do it for this season. Let's see how we get on.
Okay, and then a follow-up question to that would be, what is your vision for Cambridge United? Not necessarily obviously this season, but in the future. So let's say you did stay on next season. What would your vision be for Cambridge?
We've got a very settled, clear vision, which is mine, the owners, the directors. We've got a number of things we want to be. First of all, is a well-run football club playing at the highest level we can achieve. Secondly, we want to develop youth talent. So we want to bring forward young players. We do that through our regional development network of young players and our academy, Cat3 Academy. We want to be right up there in terms of fan engagement, that we are seen by our fans rightly as really engaging with them, working well with them. And we want to develop into a new stadium, which is a project that I've been working on for several years, and we want to land that as a project. So those are key things that we're all bought into, and those we're going to carry on whether I'm the chief exec or not.
Yeah.
So obviously with the talks for a new stadium then, are you looking to build it on the same site as the current, is it the Abbey Stadium, I believe it's called? Are you looking to build on the same site, or would you perhaps be moving a bit to a new position?
The plan, you can Google the design, which is actually a very cool design. And we publicised this about December time last year. And the plan is to move about 1.5 miles east onto a development which is being planned by a company called Marshall, one of Cambridge's oldest companies. Okay. And they plan to relocate their airfield. And so we've been talking to them for some time about building a community stadium on their land or adjacent to their land. And that piece of land, it's a huge piece of land. It's currently going through the early stages of planning process. So if they get all of the land added into the planning envelope they want to, that's where we'd put it. Then we would build a new stadium, then we'd move, and then ours would become houses.
Yeah. Do you have like a time scale? I've just had a look at the stadium design. It's a really nice design, actually. Do you have
the designers? I'll come back to time. The designers are a company called KSS, who are leading designers in sports stadia. So they designed the new stand at Anfield. They designed the Amex Stadium for Brighton. They've worked on Wembley. They have done numerous stadiums internationally, and they're working with us on the project. And the brief to them was to design something that is very sustainable, and so very much of the 21st century, and high quality. So the estimated build cost of that stadium is £50 million. We could build the very basic stadium at half that price, but we want something that is really fitting for Cambridgeshire, serving the wider community. Timeline, it all depends on the planning process, but realistically, it won't happen within 6 years. It could be 10.
So is that timescale, is that 10 years before the stadium will be built, or 10 years before it can start?
10 years before we're kicking a ball. Conceivably, it could be 6 years before we're kicking a ball. You know, it's to that extent, it's out of our hands. It's in the hands of the planners.
Yeah. So let's dive back into your career before being a chief executive of Cambridge United. Obviously, you said you were a solicitor. You went to the University of Law, did economics, and then did your legal practice course. What made you decide to, from doing economics at university, what made you decide that actually, no, I want to go be a solicitor, and then go be an employment solicitor?
I was a second year student at York, and I went home to Manchester I had to do an essay, and part of the essay had a legal element to it. And I remember going into the Manchester University Library and just looking around, I thought, I really quite like the feel of it. And it was as simple as that. I had never thought of being a solicitor before, but I was just in that space, and I thought, this is quite interesting. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought it suited me in the bits that I think that I can do. And so I looked hard, liked the idea, and then went for it. Did the conversion. I went to the career service, and they said, "Don't do that. It's too hard to get into. You won't get a job." It's a good example of chase your dream and go for it. And it turned out to work very well, and I really enjoyed being a solicitor. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging at times, but good jobs are. And I enjoyed it. But then you come to a stage where you want to do something else.
Yeah.
So are you from Manchester?
I am. I was born in Manchester. Yeah.
Oh, so do you? I'm going to put a guess out. Are you a Manchester United fan?
I am, but I was born into a Man City household.
Oh God, that's risky.
Yeah, my dad was a City fan. His brothers were City fans. My brother was a City fan, older brother, and I was just an awkward 4-year-old who said I want to support United. And I remember once my mum said to me, "Oh, I'm going to buy you some wool to knit a scarf. Do I buy blue wool or red wool?" And 4-year-old Ian said, "Red wool." And you're committed then, aren't you? So
How come you're a
Well,
Man United fan?
at least I come from Manchester, so when people say they're a Man United fan, I always have to say I come from Manchester, and I've been to Old Trafford well over 100 times. I used to go regularly, week in, week out.
How come you chose United over City then?
Because it weren't City. I was just choosing the opposite of my dad. It was just an awkward 44-year-old wanting to be different.
I think to kind of round off, then we can perhaps talk about just a little bit about Manchester United there. Hopefully, the season they're going to have, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, obviously the signing of Donny van der Beek and Patrice Evra's call out of the Manchester United board. Obviously, have you seen that interview? Well,
I haven't seen that interview. Yeah, I'm not sure it's his place to call out the board, but I think they do need some players, and I hope they get them in. I think Van der Beek was a good signing. Scored in his debut. Looked like a good player. Bruno Fernandes, good player, but you can't just have a team of the odd one. So I think they need more players, and I hope they'll get them. I'm a big fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he's really good quality. Take his time to get into a management job, but Alex Ferguson started off, and in his first few months or year or so, fans were saying he should go because he was no good, and that turned out okay. So I think in football you have to perhaps have a bit of stickability and a bit of faith in who you choose.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, Manchester United's board can maybe look at Cambridge board for a bit of inspiration.
Well, I'm very happy to go up to Old Trafford at any time and talk to them about our thoughts on the world of football. And should they want me to watch a match while I'm there, then that's great. So if you do post this to Man United and they pick that up, that's fine.
Have you got a score prediction for the Luton game tonight?
Luton and Liverpool.
Luton vs Liverpool, Luton vs Man United.
Oh, Luton, yeah, sorry, Luton, Man United. Sorry,
yeah.
I
thought a bit wrong.
You're right. I think it's got to be a Man United win. I'm not quite sure who they're going to play in terms of players, but I would fully expect a Man United win. One of the most interesting games I've ever been to is Cambridge against Man United, 2014, 2015, in the FA Cup, 4th round. And it's the only game, we got to 0-0 at half time. And obviously I support both teams. Normally that's not a problem. But at half time, I had this weird feeling I didn't want anyone to score. I was really screaming for a 0-0 draw. And got it, because I knew that it meant that Cambridge would go up to Man United and get a payday. Eventually Man United would go through, which is what happened.
Which end were you sat in? Were you in the Cambridge end or the Man United end?
It was nearly all Cambridge end. There was a Man United. I was a guest there, so I was in the main stand. And I remember seeing Louis van Gaal walking in front of me. It was a cold, wet, driving rain night in the Abbey, and Louis van Gaal looked as though he was thinking, "What am I doing here? This is not what I signed up for."
Yeah, I think last thing for me, it builds on what you just said there about obviously going to Manchester United and getting a big payday. What is it like in the FA Cup? Obviously, you're an away team, you get half of the gate receipt, is it? Yeah,
you split it 50-50, because in a league game, the home team takes really all the gate money, because that evens out over a season. But in a cup competition, your name gets pulled out of the hat first or second. If you're second, it's not right that you should get no income from that game. So you split it 50-50 after the summer allocation for expenses. So Man United come to Cambridge. I think there were probably 8,000 in the stadium. Cambridge go to Old Trafford, 65,000 in the stadium, and we take half of that plus the TV money. So TV money both games as well.
Yeah, so it's definitely beneficial for I would say a little team, but a lower league team to get pulled as the away team. Yeah, to get pulled as the away team in a cup game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Josh, have you got anything else to add?
That's it from me, Gab.
Yeah, from me as well. So, as usual, I'd like to thank my co-host, Josh Sykes.
Thanks for having me on, Gab, and Ian, a massive thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome, and good luck.
Yeah, and also best of luck to Cambridge United with the future. I'm pretty sure, judging from what they've done so far, they'll probably be pushing up there for the title at the end of the season. Good start to the least. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this week's episode of the Benchwarmers Podcast, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.